Life is full of twists and turns. One day you're making a video about famous movies and cartoons that have extremely bizarre copies, and the next day you discover that there are not just one, but several famous movies that are actually copies of other movies that had already been released. For example, The Lion King, one of Disney's greatest films in history, which had a live-action adaptation in 2019 that grossed over $1 billion, is actually, at its core, a copy of a Japanese film called Kimba the White Lion. Kimba was an anime released in 1965 and tells the story of a young lion who loses his father and must face a lion who has taken his place as the jungle's king. Not only is the story basically the same, but the name Simba is practically identical to Kimba. Despite all of this, I am still a big fan of The Lion King. I forgive it for being a copy because it's a copy that turned out better than the original for sure. Today, we're going to show you 8 famous movies that are copies, and you didn't know, at least until now. Frozen versus the Frozen Kingdom. The highest grossing animated film in history belongs to Frozen 2. But what if I told you that many, and I mean many people believe that Frozen is actually just a copy? Would you believe it? The argument is based on the fact that Frozen was released in 2013 and immediately became Disney's biggest success in the 2000s. The detail is that 1 year before, in 2012, the film The Frozen Kingdom was released, which tells the story of the love between a brother and a sister who must fight against the terrible Snow Queen. Besides both stories involving icy magical powers, the protagonist is a golden-haired girl willing to do anything for those she loves. Except, in this case, instead of Elsa, the Frozen Kingdom's protagonist is named Gerda, which fits quite well with the movie's Russian origin. Frozen Kingdom has 4 films released so far, and it was indeed released before Frozen, so it can't be the copy, but rather the copied one. But in this case, too, the copy turned out to be better than the original. Elemental versus Zootopia. Copying unknown films is one thing that causes controversy, but copying famous films, and from the same company, is even more controversial. That's exactly what many Zootopia fans accused Elemental of being. This happened because the similarities between the background story models of the 2 films were very similar. Of course, Zootopia, like Elemental, is not a love story, even though we really hope it happens in the second film. But the fact that both films have cities designed for extremely exotic and different individuals to live in does have a small dose of similarity that we can't deny, even if in one case it's a city for different types of mammals, and in the other, it's for very different elemental people. In both cases, we can see that everything in the 2 cities is hyper-adapted to each different type or species that inhabits it, and in this case, I have to admit that I really like both Zootopia and Elemental for the same reason. So, I can say that even if one served as inspiration for the other, both turned out very cool. And what inspires us to continue making videos is your subscription! Click the button down here and honor us by becoming a part of our channel. How to Train Your Dragon versus the Sea Beast. Every animation fan knows How to Train Your Dragon, which was released by Dreamworks in 2010. The franchise had 2 more films, one in 2014 and another in 2019, to close a trilogy. There's even a live-action adaptation of the franchise currently in production. The fact is that both Hiccup and Toothless became globally known. That's why when I watched the movie The Sea Beast, I actually thought for a moment that I was watching How to Train Your Dragon 4. If you're not familiar with it, The Sea Beast is an adventure animation released by Netflix in 2022. In the movie, a sailor decides to leave his comfortable life on the mainland and venture into unknown seas. During this journey, he encounters the pinkish-colored Toothless, an intriguing sea creature that surprisingly becomes an ally in the fight against furious storms. The life of the sea monster hunter is completely transformed by this friendship, which develops with the threatening creature. Apart from the story, albeit with due proportions, being quite similar to Hiccup's, the Sea Beast has a design that strongly resembles the Dreamworks protagonist dragon, that's for sure. Despicable Me versus The Incredibles. Now we're getting into the most emblematic case on our list, which deserves a deeper analysis. As soon as the trailer for Despicable Me 4 was released, many people, including us here at the channel, started thinking, I think I've seen some of these scenes somewhere before. And it didn't take long for us to remember that the scene where Gru and Little Gru Jr. wear robbery masks when infiltrating what appears to be a school for criminals is very, very similar to the scene where Mr. Incredible and his son, Jack Jack, are both wearing masks over their eyes. Do you think we're exaggerating? This wasn't the only thing we found in common between the 2 movies. If you've seen Incredibles 2, you surely remember the showdown between Jack Jack and the raccoon, another character with a mask. And in the trailer, we see Gru's son with another dark-furred animal animal, this time a badger, just like it happened with Jack Jack. Moreover, despite their differences, the truth is that seeing Gru's baby immediately reminded me of Jack Jack. So there are definitely many grounds for fans to claim that, at least in this part of the new Minions Boss movie, there was some inspiration. Don't you agree? But we have to admit that even though he resembles Gru, the little baby from Despicable Me is very cute. If you also think so, comment down below, #Junior. Wings vs. Planes. Wings is a Russian animated film released in 2012, telling the story of Ace, a young plane determined to win an air race competition. The voice cast includes famous names like Josh Duhamel, Hilary Duff, and Rob Schneider. Despite being a less internationally known Russian film, it found a dedicated audience who appreciated its emotional story and charming characters. The detail is that in 2013, Disney released the film Planes, basically following the same formula as Cars, but with planes this time. The story follows the journey of Dusty Crophopper, a crop-dusting plane in Prop Wash Junction who dreams of becoming a race pilot, despite doubts from his friends and boss. The film highlights Dusty's determination and perseverance in pursuing his goals, which resonated with the audience. Although Planes is a good film, the truth is that Wings was released first, so we can easily say that Disney took inspiration from elsewhere when developing its plane-themed movie. Ants vs. A Bug's Life. The movie A Bug's Life was released by Pixar and Walt Disney in 1998. It follows the protagonist Flick, an inventive ant, on his journey to save the anthill from a group of grasshoppers led by Hopper. On the other hand, Ants, also released in 1998 but produced by Dreamworks Animation, Disney's competitor, tells the story of a worker ant longing for more than the monotony of his life. He accidentally becomes involved in a plot to overthrow the dictatorial General Mandible and ends up becoming a hero. While some people believe it was a coincidence that two animated ant-themed movies were released in the same year, 99% of people believe that Jeffrey Katzenberg, the founder of Dreamworks, left Disney, where he used to work, with such anger that he decided to shamelessly copy all the movies he knew the company was planning to release. And that's exactly what happened. The Road to El Dorado versus The Emperor's New Groove. Another case very similar to the Ants case, but this time the other way around, happened in the year 2000. The Road to El Dorado was a film released in 2000, also produced by Dreamworks, following the adventures of two con artists, Tulio and Miguel, who discover a map leading to the legendary city of El Dorado. If you don't remember it very well, don't blame yourself. Most of us who watched it don't remember it either. In contrast, The Emperor's New Groove was also released in 2000 by Disney Pictures, and the animation stands out for its irreverent humor. The story revolves around the young Emperor Kuzco, who is transformed into a llama by his evil advisor, Yzma, and is forced to rely on Pacha, a peasant, to help him regain his throne. Both stories focus heavily on indigenous culture and are set mostly in the Amazon rainforest, so someone copied someone in this story. Since Disney's film was released later, it is considered the copy in this case, but this time the copy was actually better once again, as The Emperor's New Groove outshines The Road to El Dorado. These were the 8 movie and animated series copies that turned out much better and more famous than the original stories. So, did you know any of these stories that are considered originals, or was it all new to you? Leave a comment below to let us know. And to keep having fun with us, just choose and click on one of the videos appearing on your screen. Thank you!